Alright everyone, happy Monday, and we're into another week of intense Celtic action. Couple more games for us to enjoy this week, especially midweek when we go to our nearest challengers, Aberdeen, and we have the chance to go 7 points clear of them after the weekend results, and we would still have a game in hand. So we can maybe start to look ahead to that one. Got loads of comments to go through from Saturday's win over Ross County and a few quotes that I thought were interesting as well. And we're into December, and while I look outside, and not to rub it in for those of you living in Scotland or Ireland or England or even the US or wherever else, but it's getting warmer here. Lovely sunny weather out there. I'm sure you can imagine what the sun looks like. Maybe some of you might struggle with that. But yeah, what I wanted to say was amazing November for the channel, best month we've had for the channel. So a big thanks to all you who watched the videos, commented, liked, etc. We're moving into December now, really busy period, but it's full steam ahead, I guess. Such a busy December, January, February for Celtic, and we're going to be there every step of the way. Okay, going to start with some of your comments then from Saturday's game, which was fabulous. I'm saying the word fabulous a lot, and someone pointed out a few weeks ago, and you know that way it's just living rent free now. So it's going to be the last time I say that word. Okay, no more of that going forward. I'm going to do my best because I think it's a bit of a weird word to be saying. Okay, comments. Let's begin with DVP 36. Would start both McCowan and Bernardo. This is for midweek, obviously. They are the guys on form who look hungry, so deserve the start. Hatate and Engels look a bit jaded at present. A break will do them good. If McCowan doesn't get a start, must think it's down to transfer value. If he had been a big money buy, he would definitely start. We have a good batch of midfielders. Rotation shouldn't be a problem. I made my thoughts pretty clear on the post-match video with John yesterday, and by the way, check that out if you haven't already. Plenty of good chat as usual from John. But I said that I've been pretty blown away by Paulo Bernardo this season. Luke McCowan has massively exceeded my expectations. I thought he'd be all right. I thought he'd be good for us. I thought it was a signing that made sense. I didn't think he would be a player who would come in and be able to play like that at the weekend and be the man of the match. And he's been a standout when he's come off the bench a fair bit as well. And Paulo Bernardo's been the same. McCowan's scoring goals, Bernardo's scoring goals, McGregor's scoring goals. Our three midfielders on Saturday that started the game all scored, which I think was notable. But yeah, I just simply think that this might be a really basic way to look at things, but I think Bernardo and McCowan have earned a shot to start Wednesday night, and it's a big game. It's our potentially the toughest match we play at the moment domestically. It's our closest challengers away from home. I know they are maybe not doing quite as well as they have been at the start of the season, but it's still going to be a tough game. But I think that midfield is up to the task. I just think there's such energy in that midfield. You know, the three of them kind of buzz about. Well, McCowan and McGregor buzz about. Bernardo's slightly different. He's a kind of strange mover, Bernardo, but he does move. He gets around the pitch and offers so much both with and without the ball. So yeah, I think that's a midfield I would go with. I know John pointed out yesterday, and while I think John was very much up for the idea of McCowan and Bernardo starting alongside McGregor, John feels that it would be Bernardo, Hatate, McGregor. And to be honest, obviously I'm very in tune with how Bernardo and Rodgers thinks. We've established that in recent weeks. I do think that's what he'll go with. I think Bernardo will start the game. I'm pretty confident Bernardo's going to come in and start the game. Obviously McGregor is, and it's just about that final place. And I do think maybe he'll go with Hatate. But I don't think there's a bad option really there in the midfield at all. And it's not that I'm anti-Hatate or anti-Engels at all. I think if we're playing Club Brugge this midweek, obviously we were last midweek, I would probably want Hatate, Engels, maybe both of them in that midfield. So I just think that midfield of Bernardo, McCowan and McGregor would be a really good fit for this game. Really energetic, as I say. Aberdeen are really energetic, but really good on the ball as well, those three. So the Bagels Productions, great name, pointing out 6 changes and 4 of them get on the score sheet. Yeah, so we had, I didn't actually realise this until you pointed it out. So we had Scales, McCowan, Bernardo and Idah all back into the starting lineup on Saturday, all scoring in the game or in the first half. And like, while that may seem like a bit of a cool stat, I don't think it's like coincidence at all. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's like just a sign and an example of these players who maybe haven't been starting as much as they have wanted to recently. They're put in for a game like this, and they all just played so well. Like, it was really, really encouraging seeing those guys coming in and just taking to it right away. And I do think it's something we're going to continue to see going forward. You know, I think Brendan Rodgers can make 5 or 6 changes. Maybe not every match, but certainly when we've got like a Champions League game midweek where you're going to put all your efforts in, it's going to take a hell of a lot out of the players, and then you go into, let's just say, a more winnable home league game like at the weekend where you should win with a bit to spare. I think we can make 5, 6 changes, 6 changes it was on Saturday. And I know maybe we were all a little bit scarred at the start of the season, because remember we had that Falkirk Cup tie, and I think the manager made 8 changes for that game, and we were pretty poor that day. And the more I look back at that, and obviously Brendan Rodgers said after the game, you know, I'll never make as many changes as that. And he probably won't. He probably won't ever make 8 changes again. But the more I look back at that game, I think rather than the changes being the issue, it was the fact that players weren't up to speed. So I think that was like Vai's first start, Trusty's first start, like Palma was in. Can't remember quite what the other changes were. I think potentially Ralston came in for that one. But I think basically now the squad is so much more up to speed that like making 6 changes like we did on Saturday isn't a bad thing. It's like a positive thing. I don't know how you feel, but I don't think we win that 5-0 on Saturday if we play the same team as we did against Bruges. And that's a hell of a good thing we've got going for us, that you can make changes and these players come in and actually freshen things up and make us better, rather than like what we saw at the start of the season with the Falkirk game. So I think going forward, given the squad we have, and we basically now have a squad of, 18, 19, 20 players who, as the manager says are all starters. These are all people who can come in and start any game and are reliable, and a lot of them are kind of being harshly treated because they're not starting more games, but that's just the way things are, and that's just the way the squad's going to work. But they're all buying into this greater good type thing. But I think we're going to continue when we've got 2 games in a week. As I say, maybe not every week, but certainly when there's a game that takes a lot out of the team, like a midweek game, I think there's a fair chance you'll continue to see Brendan Rodgers making 5, 6 changes from Wednesday night to Saturday. And certainly based off the Ross County game, that's not a bad thing at all. On a similar note, we've got Aidan O'Brien, and I've probably just answered all your points here, Aidan, in my last answer, so I might just brush over this, but saying if we still have a decent sized gap at the top of the league after Zagreb or the cup final, with 6 weeks before the next European game and a lot of fixture congestion, is that the time for a lot more rotation and potentially B team players in the squad? Yeah, I didn't touch on the B team thing. I don't think you're going to see B team players anywhere near certainly the starting 11 over the coming months. I don't know if we'll even see a B team player coming off the bench. The only time I could think would be maybe a cup game, Scottish Cup early rounds, but also later on in the season, if we win the league, as is potentially looking the case, maybe late March, early April, you could maybe see some players coming in at that stage. But I just think when you can't guarantee game starting places regularly to like Paulo, Bernardo, Adam, Idah, James Forrest, you can't really be given opportunities to B team players. I think that's probably, it's probably one of the downsides, if there is such a thing, of having such a strong squad, is that you're not necessarily going to see many players from the academy coming through unless they're like unbelievable, or unless we have like an injury crisis in like a certain position. And like Daniel Kelly was obviously the one last year, but like Daniel Kelly probably only really got an opportunity, if we're honest, because we had so many injuries in the middle of the park at one stage. I think Hatate was missing, Callum McGregor was missing, maybe some other players as well. And, you know, we're so well stocked in every position this season, basically, that there's not really an opening for any B team players. Now, maybe you could look at the striker position. Could someone like Daniel Cummins, who's scoring lots of goals and has been spoken about a little bit, could he be the third striker? We'll wait and see potentially. I just think we're playing at such a high level right now that there's such a step up from the B team. So I don't think we're going to see B team players involved. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see them. But equally, like, would you rather be in the position of having a really strong squad or having like a really kind of struggling squad like we did this time last year and seeing B team players? I'm not sure if you get both. There's an argument maybe you do if the players are good enough, Kieran Tierney, Callum McGregor, etc. Right, Mortimer, 67. Scales was brilliant. When was the last time we had 3 centre-backs of that quality where you could rotate and not be worried? I'd also have Bernardo, McCowan and McGregor versus Aberdeen. Great strength and depth on the bench if needed. Great point about the 6 changes to starting 11 and it's exciting. Really strong at the moment. Injuries will inevitably happen. We have depth now to overcome as and when players are out. Really pleased for Idah. Was hoping he could have bagged a few goals to really drive confidence. Took his goal so well and worked hard for 90 minutes. Great time. Santa will be getting a great reaction this year. Big month ahead. Yeah, I was really pleased for Adam Idah. I was looking earlier on today at his like minutes per goal record since he signed permanently, and certainly in the league it's he's scoring every 75 minutes in the Premiership this season. And I looked at last season again, only in the league he scored a goal every 76 minutes. So he's basically kept that level up in terms of scoring, and he's also scored he scored a goal in the Champions League, a couple of goals in the League Cup at least. So he's scoring goals, and there's clearly bits of Adam Idah's game that I think can be worked on. He's still pretty raw. Like, I think his link-up play can be better, and I think he's capable of that as well. He's not maybe like a Giakoumakis that you looked at. And I love Giakoumakis, but you'd look at him and you think, right, he's probably not capable of much better build-up play because he's just a finisher. I think Idah is a finisher, but I think he can also be a really good player for us as well. And I think that's something that's going to be worked on. So I'm really pleased with Adam Idah. I know he's getting a bit of criticism, and I don't know if suddenly when you pay that amount of money, maybe people's expectations just change from him being a loan player, because he had very low expectation, I should say, when he first joined. No one was really expecting anything, and he was brilliant. And he's probably continued being brilliant, but just that in general people's expectations are that bit higher. So I think he can certainly improve, but he's scoring goals, Adam Idah. I should probably check this. I would say he's probably 8 or 9 goals so far this season in all competitions. Pretty good considering he's not played or certainly started a hell of a lot of games. So that's good. Also agree with your point, Liam Scales just looked really good when he comes into games. Really good, really aggressive in the air as well, which is a positive. Just on the centre-back topic, Mantis Toboggan MD, not sure if it was a wee bit of man management from Rodgers, but I thought that CCV would have been rested given his injury record of late. But I think Rodgers maybe didn't want to leave him out on the back of an OG on Wednesday because it would lead to all sorts of speculation and internet gossip, etc. about CCV being dropped on the back of that mistake. 3 games in a week for CCV is a big ask ahead of the game in Zagreb, so I wouldn't be surprised if Scales starts again on Wednesday with Trusty back in for CCV. I was a little bit surprised that it was Austin Trusty who dropped out of the starting lineup on Saturday. I felt that it would be Carter Vickers because clearly he's had injury troubles over the last couple of years and we're managing him a bit. But then you actually look at the amount of football Austin Trusty's played for Celtic, and I didn't actually believe this, but he's played every minute of every game since the Falkirk match. So that's 13 Celtic matches in a row that Austin Trusty has played the entirety of, which, I mean, clearly I think Kasper Schmeichel would be the only player you could say that about. So he'll be the only outfielder who's played all that run of games. So it was probably, looking at it like that, it was probably a good time to give Austin Trusty a rest. And my hunch is that Trusty will be back in the team for Pittodrie next to Carter Vickers. So I think those two will be back against Aberdeen, and then potentially Carter Vickers would then drop out for Hibs at the weekend. So you'd have Trusty and Scales against Hibs, and then maybe for Dinamo Zagreb you go back to Carter Vickers and Trusty. So potentially over the Ross County, Aberdeen, Hibs games you'll see 3 different central defensive partnerships. But I think one of the positives there is that like all 3 partnerships look pretty good, I would say. And I think that could be really important later in the season when inevitably one of them's going to pick up an injury that keeps them out for a few games at some stage. In the past when that's happened, like think back to Starfelt and Carter Vickers, if one of them dropped out, you were a bit concerned. Certainly if Carter Vickers dropped out. I think obviously Carter Vickers is still Carter Vickers. But if he was to drop out for a couple of games, I think you feel all right about Scales and Trusty now. Like I feel like they've played a lot of games together, and like if they were to start, like you say, at Pittodrie on Wednesday night, like I would feel all right about that. Whereas in the past, the thought of Carter Vickers not being in our team for a game like this would be like horrendous, and you'd be full of nerves. So I think that's a real positive that we appear to have like 3 kind of decent enough partnerships there going forward. And as I say, I thought Scales was great at the weekend. So yeah, really pleased with Saturday. Thought it was a great first half. Big thanks to Celtic TV for finally uploading the second half of the match, probably around a day or so after the game itself. And a big thanks to Celtic, the team, for scoring all their goals in the first half. If it had been the other way around, I would have really struggled to do the reaction yesterday. But yeah, people can now watch the full game on Celtic TV. I don't know why they have to put it up in 2 different halves anyway. It must be something to do with video size, I don't know. Sunday, yesterday, saw our title challengers Aberdeen drop more points. They drew 1-1 away to Hearts. They've now taken 1 point from a possible 9 in the Premiership, and it means that we are 4 points ahead of them, and we have a game in hand, 11 ahead of Rangers. Also noticed yesterday that Dynamo Zagreb had also lost at the weekend. Now, they lost 1-0 away to Hajduk Split, who are the top team in Croatia. They're now 7 points behind Split in the Croatian league. Zagreb have gone 4 games without a win in all competitions. They've actually gone 3 games without even scoring a goal. So they're clearly not in the best place as we get ready. I mean, we're really not far away, 8 days away from the big game next week. So I think this is an opportunity for Celtic. Zagreb are not clearly in a great place at the moment. I believe they play Friday night. They've got Slaven Belupo. I think it's kind of Friday evening, maybe 5 or 6 p.m. So they're going to have an extra day or so to prepare for that game. So it's clearly going to be difficult going there, but yeah, I think that game's an opportunity for the team to really go and make a statement and turn this campaign from I was going to say a good one to a really good. I say it has been a really good campaign so far, but to really take it up a notch and go there and win the game. But yeah, I was looking at their fixtures as well, Zagreb. So they've got us at home. They then go away to Arsenal. Clearly don't think they'd get anything in that. And then their final game's a home match against AC Milan. So they're on 7 points at the moment, so they'll need a win from somewhere at the very least. So they're clearly going to be looking at the game against us as their best opportunity by a fair bit of getting that win. So I think that game's going to become a bit of a must-win for them next week, and that may play into our hands a bit as well. But we can obviously touch on that as that game approaches. Right, some quotes I wanted to share with you from Paulo Bernardo. One line here in particular after the game saying, "We play at a high level, so we need to be playing every game at that high level." Listen to this. "We don't have easy games, we make the games look easy." That phrase is our motivation for these games. We need to look at every game the same way. We're playing in the Champions League, but we have to win the league. We don't have easy games, we make the games look easy. I love that, and I feel like that genuinely sums up how Celtic are approaching things at the moment. They don't take any opposition team lightly, but equally we have so much faith in our own ability that if we turn up, certainly domestically, and hit our top level, then the games will turn out to be relatively easy for us. Bernardo also speaking about Arne Engels. Well, clearly a question was put to him about Arne Engels maybe taking a little bit of time. And Bernardo has first-hand experience of this, saying some players need a little bit more time. I needed a little bit. I think the coach understands that and gives us time to do the right things first and then to have an opportunity. Today, I think I'm better than the day I arrived last season. I'm happy, and I think the coach understands that I'm better this year than I was when I came in last year. It's just patience with these guys. Bernardo and Rodgers keen to point that out to the BBC after the game, saying, I just think it's time. I think it's well documented, as I mentioned before, but Nicholas Kuhn and Paulo Bernardo at this time last year, people wondered, what type of player is he? Nicholas Kuhn, is he the type of player that's going to suit our style? And you see, with time, those players have then really developed, and that's the culture that we have, and I expect exactly the same from Arne. Bernardo Rodgers also played down a bit of a narrative that, to be fair, I've been guilty of falling into this trap from time to time and thinking that Arne Engels is a direct replacement for Matt O'Reilly. He's a young player with a great attitude, a great mentality. He wants to learn, so that means he's one of us and he has good scope to really push on. I think the challenge for him was that he had come in and it looks like he's a direct replacement for Matt O'Reilly, and he's not that. Arne was one that we felt we needed a greater physicality in the league and in the Champions League in particular, but he's one. He plays as an 8, but can also play as a 6, and if you look at all his figures in the Champions League, his running ability, that has really helped us improve. Yeah, clearly, like, Arne Engels is a different player. You only have to watch him for 10 seconds to realise he's a different player to Matt O'Reilly, but when you sell Matt O'Reilly for a record fee and then sign Arne Engels for a record fee within a few days of each other, it maybe is easy just to think that Arne Engels is going to come in and take all Matt O'Reilly's responsibilities. But clearly, Bernardo and Rodgers point out they're very different players. He's not a direct replacement. Also interesting to hear him speak about Engels as a number 6, a deeper player. Will we ever get to see him playing there? Certainly, if Callum McGregor was to miss a few matches, and obviously I hope that doesn't happen, but if that was to happen for whatever reason, I think Engels would be the obvious player to play there. Having said that, I'm saying that, and was it not Bernardo who dropped in there recently when McGregor missed a few games? So was Engels must have been around at that stage. I'm not sure why Engels wouldn't play that position, because I think he'd have the traits to have that deeper position. But I think generally speaking, for his development, I think it's better if he's one of the more advanced players, because he's not going to get the game time if while McGregor's at the club. McGregor's clearly got that position nailed down. And I wouldn't move McGregor forward either. I've been a firm believer that Callum McGregor's best position is where he is, where he can run games. But yeah, I've got no fears over Arne Engels. I've clearly said that a fair bit going forward. And yeah, I think we'll look back at this period when people were questioning Engels a little bit and probably laugh in a year, maybe longer, when he's absolutely flying. So yeah, everything pretty positive, and we're looking ahead to Aberdeen now. And yeah, we'll continue or maybe start the build up to that one tomorrow. Until then, I'll say goodbye. Thanks, everyone.